that Chiefs Ravens, if that's what it is next week in the AFC title game. That's going to be a great game. That's going to be a fun game. Boy, I really haven't thought it that far. Let's see. I guess I would go. My heart would go with Andy Reid and the Chiefs, just because I do like Andy, having spent years in Philadelphia. So I would go Chiefs and Packers. That'd be a fun Super. That'd be. I think that would be a rematch. Wait a second. Wouldn't that be a rematch of Super Bowl I? No.
It was only you're old enough to remember Super Bowl I.
I can't remember, but I know the Packers were in Super Bowl I, and here it's the 100th anniversary of the NFL. So, it would be interesting. It'd be kind of a fun storyline if the Packers got back there on the 100th year anniversary of the NFL after playing in the first Super Bowl. But, that's. We'll have to wait and see. It's kind of difficult to predict that. But I'd like to see the Packers Chiefs, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mo from the BS Sports Show joins us as well. Ed, you're going to stick around?
I got to roll. I have
okay, buddy.
I have a lot of writing to do. So, but listen, thanks a lot, and enjoy the weekend.
Yes, sir. We're going to go boating here in a little bit. On my new lake.
Better than shoveling snow.
This is true. Very true.
Snow. Yeah.
All right, man. We'll talk with you soon.
Take it.
Mo from the BS Sports Show joins us. Mo, how is you, sir?
I'm good, Tom. Thanks for having me as always.
Are you staying dry? It started raining here yesterday about 6:00 in the morning, and it has not stopped. And as I've mentioned a couple times today, I've always wanted a lake home, so now it has happened.
Well, you got one.
That's right. My entire backyard has turned into the Great Lake of Avon. So we're just continuing the conversation here, and we'll just kind of recap a little bit. Let's start, though, with the College Football Championship, the Battle of the Tigers down in New Orleans. A quasi-home game for the LSU Tigers. Obviously, looking to win their first national championship since 2007, which happened in that same building. But the Clemson Tigers have a history in this game. But you have two of the great quarterbacks, and certainly one would think would be the first overall pick to the Bengals, and that's Joe Burrow, and Heisman Trophy winner with LSU Tigers. I like the LSU Tigers in this particular game, but break down the College Football Championship on Monday night.
I think everybody's waiting to see, that at some point they're waiting for a letdown game from Joe Burrow, but what a story this team has been. Clemson obviously is battle tested when it comes to a national championship game. But you know what? The LSU Tigers have played a lot of big games this year, and I think that helps them for sure going into this football game. Normally, I would think this would be a game that Clemson would have to lose. But again, like I said, with the experience in big games that LSU has had this year and the big wins, and the emotion of Coach Ed Orgeron. It's really hard for me to pick against the LSU Tigers, especially like you said, with basically a home game there in New Orleans. So I'm going to take LSU, but I think it's going to be a high-scoring, very fun game.
Yeah, it's going to be a real fun game to watch. So we'll see what happens. Let's get into the NFL divisional rounds. We were just talking about that with Ed Kratcz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's start with the Tennessee Titans and the Baltimore Ravens. Supposed to be a pretty rainy night there tonight, but certainly Ryan Tannehill has did a great job. But Lamar Jordan is the real deal. Let's talk a little bit. Let's break down the Tennessee Titans and the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, I think if you're the Titans, you're hoping for a rainy night because anything that would slow down Lamar Jackson a little bit. If you're Tennessee, it's going to come down to your defense. Like it did last week against New England, it's going to come down to your defense. And can you contain Lamar Jackson for an entire 4 quarters? We saw their last game of the regular season with the Baltimore Ravens when, Cleveland kind of held them scoreless for a quarter and a half, and all of a sudden the onslaught began. So if you're Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill's got to turn red zone opportunities into touchdowns, and he's also got to make sure that, that his defense, it can keep Lamar Jackson off the field. That's the biggest thing. And Tennessee has got that humongous running back in Derrick Henry. Can they control the clock, and can they control the football? And it's going to be a night if it's just rainy like it's supposed to be, that you're going to be running the football. So can Derrick Henry keep Lamar Jackson off the field? And that's the key, I think, obviously to success for the Titans. They played a fantastic game last week at Foxborough, and you hope that they don't have the letdown today in Baltimore and we get a pretty good game. But there's always that chance for a blowout when Lamar Jackson's on the field. Mark Ingram going to be probably a game-time decision. It doesn't look like he's going to go. Hasn't practiced all week, but we'll see what happens with Ingram, who's also a big part of that Baltimore offense.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lamar Jackson is a beast, that's for sure. And you got to wonder how long this can last, but it's working right now. But, yeah, absolutely anything you can do in the smallest scale to slow down the Baltimore Ravens. Let's talk a little bit about that huge win, Tennessee over New England. We were talking a little bit about this with Ed earlier, but it began the 2020 Tom Brady watch. And, as much as I mentioned earlier, as much as it makes me want to throw up in my mouth, the ever-growing popular rumor, which that's all it is at this point, is that he lands with the Indianapolis Colts. There's other options, and also there's the option that he'll end up back at New England or he retires. What are your thoughts as we begin Tom Brady Watch 2020?
I don't think there's any way he retires. No way at all. If he was going to do that, he would have done it after a Super Bowl win. I think he is sincere when he says he wants to play till 45. He said this week there is no hometown discount. He's done enough of giving discounts to New England Patriots. So if they want him, they're going to have to pay him. For him to come to Indianapolis, which would make sense at this point in his career with a fantastic offensive line, the Colts are going to have to put more weapons around him. We saw what happens when T.Y. Hilton goes away, how just, terrible that passing game is. So if the Colts hope to land a guy like Tom Brady, they're going to have to put weapons around him, because I think he's played so long without weapons other than really like a Randy Moss. What weapons has he really had? I mean, real weapons. Obviously, Julian Edelman is a do-it-all type of receiver, but what type of weapons has Tom Brady had? So I think he's tired of doing that, realizes the career is in the home stretch. So if the Colts hope to score a guy like Tom Brady, they're going to need to put some offensive weapons around him.
Well, yeah, the Colts don't have that right now either. Let's talk a little bit about the Colts while we got them on topic. Let's say it's not Tom Brady. Is it Philip Rivers? Did they get somebody in the draft? What are your thoughts about the Colts and the quarterback situation?
Well, I think it depends on how far that Tua Tagovailoa will fall. Is a team early on willing to take a chance? A lot of the bad teams have picked quarterbacks up over the last couple of years. Teams like the Browns, the Jets, those teams don't need quarterbacks. Tampa Bay have to decide what it wants to do with Jameis Winston. But can Tua fall enough to where the Colts can move up, 4 spots to get him if that's what they want, but realize he's probably not going to play, next year. But you do have Jacoby Brissett under contract for 1 more year, and you can see what you got with Tua. So I think if you're going to draft it, it's going to depend on who falls to where they can get to. They're also not going to get to number 1 with what they have, and it's going to depend, I think, a little bit what they do in free agency. I know Philip Rivers, I don't see him doing it just for the fact that, he still drives from San Diego every day to L.A. for practice. He seems like a guy pretty set in his ways. I don't see that one happening. I could see him winding up with, a Las Vegas Raiders team or something like that. But, who knows? Like I said before, I think Jameis Winston is intriguing. I don't know if you can fix the interceptions, but if you can, the kid's got talent. He can throw the football down the field. He scorched the Colts for 5 or 6 touchdowns earlier this year. So there's some options out there. But if you're Chris Ballard, you have to decide what you want to do. Is reuniting Nick Foles with Frank Reich something you want to do? But then you have to talk into the cat makes a lot of money, and what do you give up for him? So there's some interesting scenarios out there for the Colts this year at quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about the other big game happening today, and that is, brain fart. Oh, that's right. It's the Minnesota Vikings and San Francisco 49ers. What a great game that was against the New Orleans Saints at home. I mean, it's going to be a struggle for the Vikings to win 2 games on the road in the playoffs. Garoppolo seems to be playing on all cylinders. But yet, there again, Kirk Cousins and the Vikings should not be underestimated in this game. What are your thoughts as we look at the Minnesota Vikings at the San Francisco 49ers?
Well, I think a lot of the Vikings' success is going to depend on the health of Adam Thielen, whether he plays or not. It's Kirk Cousins' chance to shut up all the doubters. Can he continue to be a big game quarterback? We saw it last week against New Orleans, but that was one game, and I think Vikings fans are wanting to see more from Kirk Cousins when it comes to these big games. They're paying him a ton of money, and he's got to continue to prove that he can be a big game quarterback, and that's going to be tough against the San Francisco 49ers defense that has just eaten quarterbacks alive all year long. So can they get Dalvin Cook involved in the running game early and get that moving so they can throw the ball downfield? Again, the Vikings offense kind of goes as Adam Thielen goes. The games he missed this year, were some tough offensive games for them. So, it'll be interesting to see come game time whether he's going to be on the field or not. And if you're the 49ers, you continue just to manage the game like you have all year. You pound the ball, you run, and you keep the other team off the field, and you keep that amazing defense they have rested. So it looks like a San Francisco win tonight for them at home against the Vikings.
Well, we'll see what happens. And then tomorrow we've got another big game, another big AFC matchup between the Houston Texans. Again, a great win that they had last week. But the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs, what are your thoughts?
Well, Houston struggled to beat Buffalo last week, and, playing the Chiefs at home is an entirely different subject. So
yes,
I haven't liked this Texans team all year long. I don't think they're coached well. Deshaun Watson has taken numerous hits again this year. It'll be interesting to see if Will Fuller plays. He didn't play last week, which hampers their offense a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see, can they keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs. Houston's been a team a lot of time this year in the red zone that has settled for field goals as opposed to touchdowns, and against Patrick Mahomes in this offense, you can't do that. Now, the one thing that Houston does have going for them is that the Chiefs' defense isn't spectacular, but they have gotten to the quarterback some this year. We've seen the pass rush with Frank Clark be better this year, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But if you're Houston, you got to be able to score touchdowns and not kick field goals, and I think that Kansas City just runs away with this one.
Let's talk about what's going on in Lambeau tomorrow. It's supposed to be snowy. Something good about a playoff game in the snow at Lambeau Field. So you've got the Seattle Seahawks certainly win against and a disappointing loss for the Philadelphia Eagles, but a win it was for them to beat Philadelphia, and now they get ready for Lambeau. I'm sorry.
Have the Packers really impressed you all this year? Can you think of one big, huge signature win that they've had? They're just a very bland team to me. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is a fantastic quarterback, but it just hasn't been a Packers team that, to me, that excites me very much. And the Seahawks team has continued to excite me all year long. Russell Wilson continues to be fantastic. And with the emergence of DK Metcalf, as we saw last week, the guy can change a game very quick. He can go up and get a football, and has breakaway speed down the field. So I like Seattle going into Lambeau. And I know it's not a popular opinion, but I like the Seahawks to go into Lambeau and win tomorrow night.
So your thoughts, it's going to be Seattle and San Francisco in the NFC Championship, and it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game.
No, I like the Titans to upset Baltimore.
Oh, Titans. Okay, so the Chiefs and the Titans. So that scenario there, that matchup, the Chiefs and the Titans, who wins? Goes to Super Bowl.
I think the Titans would run out of gas by that point. I think you see, Kansas City, Seattle.
Interesting.
I think that's the Super Bowl matchup.
Seattle
Kansas
back.
City, Seattle.
See, I would say if there was a team to return to the Super Bowl this year, it would be the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's talk a little bit about the Cleveland Browns and Freddie Kitchens. It looks like they might land on Josh McDaniels. That seems to be the leading candidate, but they are the last of the Mohicans, the last of the standout of the teams who have not hired a new coach for the 2020 season. What do we know about the Cleveland Browns and their coaching?
that it's been terrible and terrible decisions have been made for years upon years now. Josh McDaniels is a joke in my eyes. He was terrible as a head coach. They want the coach to have an input on hiring the GM. But remember, Josh McDaniels is the guy who drafted Tim Tebow in the first round. And we saw what happened with the Colts. I think Josh McDaniels is a terrible idea, absolutely horrendous idea. But the Cleveland Browns